Hey there, art nerds! Once again, I have painted some Easter eggs. This time, I was a little bit smarter about it. So several years ago, I blew and cleaned real chicken eggs and then watercolored and used alcohol marker on top of them. And if you're interested in learning how to do that, you can find information about that down in the description below, as well as links to that video. This time though, we are working with paper mache eggs and acrylic markers, which is going to make it way easier and far less fragile. So if you're looking for a fun Easter craft to do with your family this year, I got you, friend. Today's video is a combination. I'm going to be reviewing these Arrtx acrylic markers, and I'm also going to show you how to paint your own paper mache Easter eggs. Everything you'll need, including the show notes, will be down in the description below, so make sure you check it out. And if you have any other fun ideas for Easter crafts that you'd like to see me try, let me know, and maybe we'll be able to do them together next year. Hey there, art nerds. So this isn't really a full review. I wanted to redo some of my hand painted Easter eggs by painting them on paper eggs instead of blown eggs. So I have some new acrylic markers that I purchased to try using on them. So this has been taped up. It was ordered from Amazon. It arrived a few days ago. These are from Arrtx, and I believe one of my patrons has used these before and recommended this style to me. So these are the kind that twist up in the back, and I've really come to enjoy using acrylic markers. They're a lot of fun, and if you struggle to use traditional acrylics, whether because it makes a lot of mess, or because it takes up a good amount of space, or you have pets or kids or whatever, acrylic markers can be a good alternative. Now, these were purchased out of pocket because I've enjoyed using acrylic markers so much that I have started to kill out some of my other sets. Now, these are from Arrtx. They are an acrylic marker set, 60 colors, water-based and brush tip, bright and opaque, available on different surfaces, and that just means you can use them on a variety of surfaces. My goal today is to use them to decorate paper Easter eggs. Here are the 60 colors that we have. You guys will find show notes and all other relevant information down in the description below. You ready to unbox it? I like that it's a top slip cover. We have our color dots that we're going to have to do ourselves. We have what looks like stickers as well. And we have a little social thank you card because they'd like to see us post about their stuff to social media. Let's see. These are smaller than their other markers. I see where we're supposed to put the color dot. I don't entirely see where we're supposed to put this information, maybe on the side of the barrel. It's very DIY in this instance, and I do like that the bottom actually contains, as you guys can see, a plastic grid so that we can store our markers, in fact, in the correct orientation. So with the brush down, there does not seem to be any information here on how to prep these. These do not seem to shake, and oh, this doesn't turn either. So that's interesting. These are very different. Oh, they're like ready to go. That's very cool. That is very cool. So with the Simp tap markers, I really like those, but they have a pump action, which can be hard on your hand if you have arthritis, and they take a lot of prep. With some of the other Arrtx markers that I've talked about, they require a lot of prep as well. So these seem like they are pretty much immediately ready to go. Let's grab a green. Yeah, it looks like. So one of my concerns is ink flow issues are probably going to be a concern with these. So if you need acrylic markers that you can pump and get a lot of ink flow going, like if you're doing canvas bags or you're working on a more porous surface, the Simp Tap or the bullet tip might be a better option than these. But if you want to use these in a sketchbook or maybe to decorate Easter eggs, these could be a better option as well. Before I swatch these markers though, I want to get all these little stickers in place. And I apologize. I know some of you guys are here for like aesthetic art supplies. I'm going to do a real sloppy job of applying the stickers, and I do actually pull out tweezers to help me just because these are really small and they're kind of fiddly and I have some hand problems. So if you're here for like the diamond dots sort of finesse, that's not me. I am so sorry. But now is a great time to introduce myself and get to know you guys. Hi, hello, welcome. If you're new here, I'm so glad to see you. And if you're old here, welcome back. I am Becca Hilburn. I am a comic artist, illustrator, and art educator. I teach a variety of topics these days, generally stemming from comics or watercolor. So I teach a lot of drawing classes, I teach a lot of marker classes, I teach a lot of watercolor classes, and lately I have been teaching a lot of acrylic classes. And I happen to really like acrylic markers. I was never really much of an acrylic painter. I did take some classes in college and really did not like the format when you're painting 4 foot by 4 foot canvases that are bigger than you. That is a challenge when you're a 5'3" tall woman, but I really like acrylic markers and they've given me kind of a new lease on acrylics. These are particularly fun because Arrtx makes these they're fairly opaque and they are also fairly matte acrylics, so they're almost like gouache in terms of an effect, and these can be a lot of fun for sketchbook art. I have reviewed several different acrylic markers at this point. I will link them for you guys down in the description below if you guys are curious. Now, if you are not familiar with my work, you can find me at Nattosoup, Nattosoup, pretty much everywhere, and I would love it if you would take a moment to look at my art. If you guys are interested in comics and or web comics, I have a comic that is free to read over on my website at 7inchkara.com. It is a charming tale of friendship and family set in Louisiana summer, and it explores the adventures of 7-inch tall Kara as she explores the wider world around her, makes friends with giants, and learns how to read cats. This is an all ages friendly watercolor comic, so if you're looking for something relaxing to either read for yourself or share with a loved one, you can find it at 7inchkara.com. Now, if you prefer to have dead tree books like I do, I collect comics, mini comics, and zines, you can purchase your own copies through my website at nattosoup.com/shop. If you're also looking for more of my art, if you'd like to own some art or own some art prints or own some stickers, you can find that at the shop as well. I realize that some of you guys are absolutely not familiar with my work at all, so I do hope that you will visit me on social media, hang out with me, chat with me on Blue Sky and Threads. Again, it's Nattosoup. And if you're looking to join a friendly art community with plenty of other artists at various points of their artistic development, you can find a link to my art-centric Discord server, the Paint Box, down below. Videos like this are made possible thanks to the generosity of my amazing patrons on Patreon. Thank you guys so much. At the end of the video, you will find credits thanking them because I do appreciate what they do for me and what they allow me to do. But if you would like to join their hollowed ranks, you can join me at patreon.com/Nattosoup. Approximately once a week, I release kind of a blog post, kind of an update, free for anybody to read. So even if you're not a patron, there's a good reason to follow my Patreon so that you get art and updates in your inbox every week. It took a little while to apply all of the stickers to these markers. Something that I'm kind of noticing with these Arrtx products is there's always going to be some prep involved, whether you're pumping the markers or you're applying stickers. You could also just choose not to apply the stickers. It's not going to affect how these markers work. I am curious though about how these markers work, and in particular how these markers swatch. Now, in the past, I have used a Canson XL sketchbook when swatching and even when using the Simp Tap markers. So this was the swatches for the Simp Tap, I believe. And I also like using an XL watercolor, or a Canson XL watercolor sketchbook to kind of noodle around with acrylic markers. Now I have run out of room in this larger one, so I am going to downgrade just a bit to a smaller Canson XL sketchbook. So here we go. Smaller, but it should get the job done. We have 60 of these colors to swatch today. I would put it like this, but there is no easel. And it does make it a little more challenging to use these markers when you're standing upright. So I do kind of want to find a way to prop them up. Okay, hopefully this will work. Now, we do have some, well, I want to test opacity too. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with, well, let's see. I guess it'd be 5 by 12, right? All right, 5 lines. So let's get to swatching. I'm going to do the first couple markers live so we can get a good idea. Now these, there's nothing to shake. There is nothing to twist. You just uncap it and it's ready to go, which is honestly a little surprising. Let's try another color. So this is kind of like a light peachy skin tone. Decent coverage too. I will be interested to see how these hold up. In the past, what starts to give out with my markers is the brushes start to fray and give out first, but then pretty shortly after I do start to run out of ink. I don't know what kind of secret sauce Arrtx has going on with these markers, but I like it. No pumping, no priming, no shaking. They are ready to go. So far, these are surprisingly easy to use. You do not have to pump them. You do not have to prime them. You do not have to shake them. If you are looking for an acrylic marker to use in a sketchbook that is basically ready to go, these could be a great fit. I do think the pump and prime markers like the sim tap markers and the bullet tip markers do have their place, because when you're going to be painting on a porous surface, you may want more paint to kind of keep up with your mark making. But for something like a sketchbook, these seem like a great option. Generally, when I'm narrating over these time-lapse sections, this is done in post. This is done after I finish the review. So I'm going to go ahead and spoil this a little bit. These hold up. I have not had any real issues with these markers despite doing 12 eggs with them. Now, I haven't had a chance to like really get into them in my sketchbook. I am sure they're not going to last as long as some of the other acrylic markers because they just don't have as much capacity. And after doing 12 eggs, I am noticing that some of the brushes are getting a little bit soft, but it's actually not too bad. These are a lot of fun. I wish I tried these first, but it would have spoiled me for the other markers. I wouldn't have liked them as much. So far, I have to admit, I like this formulation of the markers better than the sim tap. It's just easier on my hands. The smaller marker body is more comfortable. I like the color selection as well. You got a lot of really fun pastel colors, but there's also some colors that would work well as skin tones as well as some darker colors. The way they're achieving opacity with these is by, in general, adding in some white, with the exception of the black. So most of your color selection is going to be fairly pastel in order to achieve this kind of opacity. But I like this set better. I feel like this is going to be the one that I'm going to recommend. I do think these are going to run out pretty quick. And once they start to go dry, that's going to be kind of an issue. However, Arrtx seems to be trying to do their best with that by encouraging you to store them tip down so that the paint is always going to the brush. Something else that I find kind of surprising is, and there may be a vacuum in there to help with this, I didn't have the color separation that I saw with the sim tap markers. If you guys watched that review, I was shaking the sim tap markers you have to shake them every single time you use them because they separate very quickly. And it's really surprising how these don't seem to separate even though there is no shaker mechanism in there. So now on to the project. I have here in this little bag some paper eggs. I don't know why these are all wrapped to death, but they are. So we have some paper eggs, and I want to try painting these using acrylic markers like I painted real eggs using watercolor several years ago, and you can check that out here. A family member, and I'm not even joking, broke almost all of my hand painted watercolor eggs at Christmas. So I wanted something that could survive a fall. I figured paper mache eggs would be a good substitute and also much easier for me to handle. And I may also try watercoloring on these as well, or markering. Alcohol marker would work well on these, but I was thinking that acrylic marker would be really cute to try on these. However, with my SimTap acrylic markers, the brushes on those are shot because I used them on a canvas bag. So I wanted some fresh brushes and some fresh colors. Start out with, I'm just going to keep this really simple. I may work more ambitious as we go, but it is Louisiana iris season here in Louisiana. Louisiana irises are one of my favorite flowers, and I thought it would just be delightful to draw some Louisiana irises on my eggs. If you're looking for some tutorials on how to draw or how to paint flowers, I actually have a lot of them here on the channel, so make sure you check the description below. I don't really plan on doing a step-by-step for this one here because I have so many how to draw flower tutorials. These eggs do not require any kind of special prep. You unwrap them and you can start using the acrylic markers on them immediately. You may decide to give some of your flowers a second coat for better opacity. While these markers are fairly opaque, they're not 100% opaque, and they also have a matte finish. So if you want glossy eggs or you want glossy effects, you can use Mod Podge gloss paint for that. If you want to color your eggs ahead of time, you maybe could dye these. You could also use alcohol markers on these. I think that would work pretty well. Or you can apply a base coat of acrylic paint for even coverage, then marker on top of them, and then either use a matte Mod Podge or a gloss Mod Podge, depending on what kind of finish you're looking for. These markers dry fairly quick, so it's actually pretty easy and quick to do this technique, and you probably can get away with this on real eggs as well if you enjoy seeing the fruits of your labor get ruined at some undetermined later point. I would say this is a pretty decent craft for people who have kids who want to maybe keep the eggs that you guys have designed together. The markers are easy to use. They are extremely low mess. They don't have any fumes that I noticed. And other than just getting marker on your hands, which could happen with any kind of marker, they're pretty safe to use and pretty low key. It's not like you need mixing palettes or anything like that. So this was a really fun, fairly easy project to do. I'm not sure if it falls into the art or the craft category. I guess it's a crart, we could say. One thing though is that, you know, sometimes I decide to go behind it like I'm doing here and using my darker bluer colors to do the blades of not grass, but like the iris leaves behind the irises. Sometimes I choose to paint on top of them. You can really kind of vary your technique. As you can see, I'm drawing on top of the irises as well. It just takes a couple of coats. And one of the nice things about using a paper egg like these is you can actually go over it in pencil if you want to first. Another nice thing about these eggs is they actually have a plastic core, so they're really not fragile at all. You could do this yourself at home. You could make paper mache eggs or apply a gesso or a watercolor ground to plastic eggs if you want to, but I ain't got time for that and I don't have energy for that. I will have all of the materials that I used for this project listed down in the description below. I would love to see if you decide to paint or craft along with me. Please consider tagging me at Natto Soup. I most certainly use Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky, so that's an excellent way to show me what you've made. Basically with these flowers though, I'm not really doing much underdrawing. I'm maybe kind of sketching in the basic shapes with the markers and then filling them in. I am working from photo reference for this, just because it's easier for me than trying to remember what these flowers look like at any given time. I find these markers are fairly easy to layer. You do want to allow a little bit of dry time in because they can start to chew up the paper if you do too many layers while it's still too wet. But I didn't notice a significant dry time, and this was way easier than trying to watercolor on top of real eggs. It was so much easier. I do still want to try doing some watercolor eggs on these eggs at some point. I don't know if I will finish that in time for this Easter or not, but that is something that I do want to kind of play around with. I do like how matte these are. I like how the colors pop against the kind of natural color of the eggs. I think these would be super pretty though if you applied like a light blue color, like a robin's egg blue, and went with that. The hand painted eggs that I did a few years ago, I had some gorgeous farmers market eggs in some beautiful colors, and they were just so pretty. You're not going to get quite that effect with these, but you can buy plaster eggs as well. And at some point in the future, if you guys are interested, I might play around with plaster eggs and see how I like them, because I feel like those might take watercolor very similarly to the way real eggs take watercolor. Now, I didn't use just any old watercolor on my watercolor eggs. I used the MacLeod Pigments watercolors just because that's what I had handy, and I found that they worked well. But I think an acrylic wash would work very well both on real eggs and these kind of paper mache eggs, and you would get a very similar matte finish if that's something that you're looking for and you would prefer to use a brush rather than a brush tip marker. Now, for coloring in large areas, I am trying to use the side of the marker to preserve the tip and to spare it from wear and tear. But other than that, I'm really not taking any special or specific precautions. I'm just kind of looking at various flowers, mostly Louisiana irises for this section because I just got back from the Louisiana Iris Festival and I had a blast and I saw so many beautiful irises. And if I'm going to be really real here, I want to inspire a love of nature and Louisiana's nature in my fellow Louisianians. And if I can do that by depicting nature and talking about it, then that is what I'm going to do. So I do have a smidgen of an ulterior motive here. In fact, this is an Abbeville Red, which is one of the native irises here. And it's mostly just found in Abbeville. And they are so pretty. And I would love to have some for my garden, but I have not seen any of the Abbeville Reds in particular being sold. I do have a lot of nursery grown native irises as well as some fancy native varieties as well. But I have yet to add an Abbeville Red to my collection. So of course I had to paint one. Speaking of, if you are from Louisiana and you are watching this, give me a shout out down in the comments below. I would love to meet more fellow Louisianians who enjoy art. But also, if you're just from the Gulf Coast in general, give me a shout out down in the comments below what state you're from. The egg painting portion of this video has been time-lapsed by about 8x for each of these eggs, but just assume that all of these eggs took at least 30 minutes to paint. And this is somebody who is very experienced with drawing flowers and freehanding flowers. So if you're less experienced, it may take a little bit longer. Just be patient with yourself. Also, make sure you check the description below. I will have tutorials on how to draw all of these flowers and more linked for you guys if you guys are interested in learning how to draw and paint flowers. I wanted to try out a few different techniques on how I render flowers on these eggs. So you'll see a few different styles going on here. I just wanted to try some different things and to kind of, get a feel for the markers as well as get a feel for the eggs. And I have to say the big limiting factor for me is the eggs. The eggs are fine. It's the format is a little bit harder for me to handle, a little bit harder for me to negotiate. And I do tend to get marker on my fingers. So that doesn't make this a bad craft, and it doesn't mean I didn't have a boatload of fun with it. It's just that that was kind of the limiting factor for what what I could do with these was my own hands abilities. Now, one of the things I really like doing in acrylic is painting on weird things. If you guys have been on the channel for a while, you might remember when I painted some boots with Louisiana irises. So I enjoy using acrylics to paint unusual things on different objects. And I find that these kind of acrylic markers, maybe not for the boots, but maybe for Funko Pops, or maybe to repaint toys, or maybe to add details to doll faces, or maybe to even paint some eggs. I think these work out really well. They're a lot of fun and I recommend them. This is the Anime Set B, I believe. I really like the colors in this. It worked really well for florals. I probably will try doing some paper crafts with these, like some paper children. And you guys will see an example of a paper child that I did a couple years ago. You may have seen it earlier in the video, and you're definitely gonna see it later in the video as well. I think these might be really cute for that. And I definitely wanna try just doing some of my normal cartoony art style with these markers, because I have found that the SimTap markers were not really the best fit for that, and these have a better color selection for that. So I want to put them to the test. So I have moved on from irises now to wild roses. I really love wild roses. I draw wild roses a lot. You will definitely find tutorials for both cultivated roses with lots of petals, the old shoujo roses, as well as their wild brethren in my description links down below. For this, I also wanted to draw some rose hips because I felt like they added such a beautiful pop of bright color in addition to the really light pinks that I'm using on the roses, as well as the bright greens. You may have noticed that I am not attempting to do any kind of real blending with these markers. I'm not trying to catch them while they're still wet. I'm not going for soft transitions. I'm either letting the brush itself do the work, or I'm letting the colors do the work. And that is because these markers do dry kind of fast. There's not a lot of open time. So rather than like fussing and fighting and trying to figure it out and trying to make it blend, I'm just kind of rolling with it and keeping everything a little bit more sketchy and a lot more fun. I did 2 wild roses designs. Now I want to do some water lilies. And these are kind of inspired by the water lilies that the New Orleans Botanical Garden has in their beautiful water lily pond. Again, I'm keeping this really simple, some oval shapes in that blue green, and then in kind of a true Kelly green. And then later I'm going to do some in a bright green. I am referencing water lilies, not because I don't know what they look like, but to kind of help me with the petals and to help me with the color selection, which you guys will see in a moment. I'm also trying for a variety of floral designs on these, where some of them are close-ups of the flower in question, and then some of them are kind of more pulled out and a little bit more scene setting. did a couple of water lily eggs. Now I'm going to do some daisy eggs. So I am actually starting out with the shadow color of the petals. So these would be the petals all the way at the back. So I'm using a light blue for these. And my kind of trick for asters and flowers in the aster family, if you can't draw a circle, or even if you can, is to kind of work on petals that are counter positioned to one another. So one at the top, one at the bottom, one on each side, and then you can kind of fill that in a little bit easier. I'm also drawing in some of the background leaves. I want these to be somewhat covered up but still visible through some of the petals. So now is a perfect time to go ahead and start getting those leaves in. Now this is one of the times where I noticed I was having some drying issues. It was just taking a little bit longer to dry. Maybe the humidity changed, maybe our AC had gone off, who knows? Or maybe I was just being impatient or had covered too much of the egg with the flower. Oh my gosh. Okay, look, I watch Always Sunny, and every time I say the word egg, I think of Danny DeVito in that scene where or the episode where they're trying to like figure out ways for the bar to make more money. And he's like insistent that eggs should be their merchandise. So every time I say egg, I'm thinking of Danny DeVito and trying not to laugh. So now you know what's going on in my head with this. But you know, this kind of a project, if you're not doing it with kids, if you're just doing it yourself, one, don't think you have to do a dozen eggs in one evening. Okay, I have like control issues, and I also have like hyper focus. So what works for me might not work for other people. I also just have different responsibilities from like normal folks. So if you're like a parent and you're doing these, maybe one per evening, and just kind of be patient with yourself. Don't think you have to do like all of the eggs at one time. But if you're doing these with kids and it holds their attention, you could have them do dinosaurs, like dino eggs. How cute would that be? Both to look like a dino egg and then eggs that look like dinos. You could also do like animals. I thought about doing like an egg covered in ladybugs or an egg covered in butterflies, for example. You could even have them do like a self-portrait on the egg. That would be so cute. So it kind of just depends on what your interest is and what your kid's interest level is if you're a parent doing this at home with your kids. And I say that because I've already had several mamas comment when I just shared photos of my eggs that they were going to be doing this project with their kids, which I love that. That is phenomenal. I love it when people do art with their kids, with their nieces, with their nephews. I 100% want to encourage that. But you know, it does kind of hurt the heart just a little smidgen, because like not everything I share is meant to be like copied wholesale. So I hope they put their own little twist and their own little spin on this. And I hope they have fun, and I hope they enjoy it. And I'm glad they let me know that I inspired them to try something like this, because it is actually really easy and it really doesn't have to be that good. I'm doing little purple asters for this one. So I started with the background leaves, and now I'm adding in a few of the more Kelly green midground leaves. Then I'm going to do the asters on top of that, starting with the darker purple and then working towards the lighter purple. So this one, okay, this is not like my best looking one. You don't have to be super good at drawing to do something like this. A lot of it is things tend to look better when you've done more of them. So if you've done like a set of 12 eggs, the fact that you did 12 eggs will kind of make all of them look good, even if they're not good, because people like collections of things. It just does something for the brain. It'll also give you a chance to practice and figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. But you could also just like go all in and do one really pretty egg. I do find that I like these acrylic markers a lot, but I struggle with the brush tip. I'm a little heavy-handed. I can't quite get the fine lines and fine nuance that I might want. So for me with these, it's really easier for me to think about these in blocky shapes, in cartoony shapes, and to do multiple of these eggs rather than like trying to do just one super good time-consuming egg. Also, like, these are Easter eggs. They are not this like super precious thing. So I didn't want it to become this super precious thing that if it got damaged, I would be really upset. For my final egg, I was going to do violets because violets are my other favorite flower, but I found these Johnny Jump Ups. They're in the viola family, so they're related to violets, and they were just so pretty and cute that I decided to do just one viola for my final floral illustration. I have painted a lot of pansies with acrylic markers, so I guess that's just the theme for me because I happen to like those colors. So I painted all these eggs with these Arrtx markers. I noticed no real flow issues, and if you're careful with the brushes, you should have no problem doing several projects on paper with these. I think these eggs turned out really cute. I'm debating whether or not I want to seal them with glossy Mod Podge. That might make the colors pop even more, but right now I'm kind of just enjoying how matte they are. But if you decide to do some and seal them, I want to see them, so make sure you tag me. All right, I want to show off these finished eggs, and that requires doing a 360 turn so you guys can at least see some aspects of them. Most of these eggs were decorated all over, so I guess I could be doing like a 360 turn instead of a 180 turn. Did I say 360 earlier? I meant to say 180, but you guys know what I mean. But my hands look just awful, to be honest, so we're gonna use the tape here as our base to hold our egg, and just do a little rotatey here so that you guys can see how cute these turned out. If you are looking for how to draw flower instruction, make sure you check out the description down below. I've got some really short quickie videos, and I've also got some longer ones, so I've got something to suit most, if not all, attention spans. And I really enjoyed working on this project. I think I might be done for this year with Easter eggs. I think 12 is plenty, but if I change my mind, I will share it over on my Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at NattoSoup. If you're still a Facebook person, I do cross-post to Facebook, and you can find me at facebook.com/NattoSoup as well. So this is the set that I ordered. You can see it was a fairly recent order. This is Anime Series 60B. Without having done like skin tone testing, I feel like the colors in the set actually do work pretty well for kind of an anime inspired art style, like lots of pastels, lots of skin tones. I can see it. I see the vision. You get 60 markers, and this set is $49.99. But as you guys can see, you actually do get some other options. I will say though that the basic color A looks pretty similar color-wise. There are a few different colors, maybe some more bright like neons, as well as some metallics in there. It does seem like you get some slightly different colors, although not too different. And then basic color A also seems like, I'm sorry, my mouse slipped. Also seems like it has a few different colors. This is a 90 color set though, so I'm pretty satisfied with the 60B set. Although they also have a skin tone set. So like what you could do if you want to spend money, because none of this is super cheap, although I will say it's not that expensive, you could get the skin tone set and then maybe get like the basic color A, and that should give you everything you need. And the skin tone set has what looks like, I can't say this without swatching it, some really nice skin tones and some darker tones. So I have tried out a variety of Arrtx acrylic markers, including the Simp Tap markers that you guys can see here, as well as these bullet tip markers. And I will say that for me, these are my favorite. They're very easy to use. They're more comfortable in the hand. Yes, the brush is going to be prone to fraying, but the same problem with the Sim Tap. If you are working on a porous surface, like you want to do bags, and you haven't used like gesso or Mod Podge to kind of seal the bags first, I think the Sim Tap markers would probably be a better fit. Now, these were recommended to me by some of my friends from Patreon over in the Discord server. So thank you guys so much for your recommendation. I actually really like these. I think these are a lot of fun, and I can't wait to play with these in my sketchbook. I have to admit, I'm pretty happy with how my Easter eggs turned out, but I'm even happier with how these Arrtx acrylic markers handled. So let's talk about the pros and the cons. These have a great color selection. They are very easy to use. They're basically ready to go, especially if you don't really care about putting the color like chips on them, which, you know, that's totally optional. They are perfect for paper and sketchbooks or non-porous surfaces. Let's talk about the cons. The brush is not replaceable and it will get worn out over time. I saw that with the Sim Tap markers. And ink flow may be an issue. It's not like you can pump these to increase ink flow. So if you're working on a porous surface or an unprimed surface, I would recommend either using some Mod Podge or some gesso to just kind of prime the surface first, or switching over to an acrylic marker that you actually can pump. You also cannot refill these at all. So once they're done, but that seems pretty in keeping with the Arrtx acrylic markers that I've already talked about here on the channel. I also want to remind you guys that these were actually purchased out of pocket. They were recommended to me by one of my amazing patrons, and I just had to check them out, and I'm really glad I did because these solve a lot of problems for me. And they also offer a lot of additional colors that my existing Sim Tap markers don't offer. So these are going to be a wonderful and fun addition to my mixed media sketchbook. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I really, really like these, and I think these are great, particularly if you want to use them in a sturdy sketchbook. I can't wait to play around with these more, and I can't wait to see you guys again soon.